When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject, Slagpile. User, B00TZ22. Posted, September 27th, 1996.
My grandson loves asking about what Birmingham was like when I was little. Like it's some storybook town full of porch swings and lemonade, but it wasn't. It was heat and steel, smoke and fire, and fire don't just burn, son. It remembers. I remember. Back in the summer of '55, when I was 10, something happened. Something I ain't talked about much and would never tell the young'un, but all these questions have gotten me thinking. Back then, the sky over the city pretty much stayed the color of burnt copper. You'd wake up with soot on the windowsills, dust in your gums. My daddy worked at one of the furnaces, same as just about every man in our part of town. He'd come home looking like he'd crawled out of hell, boots clanking, eyes hollow. We lived close to Red Mountain, right near the slag dumps, and some nights you could feel the ground humming when they dumped the waste, like the whole hill was breathing slow and deep. Folks said the slag pile behind my pop's place was the biggest one, said it went 20 feet deep in spots and steamed when it rained, said it was still hot under the crust and it probably ain't ever gonna cool. Of course, as kids, and probably like most normal people would, we thought they meant the heat stuck around, but now, looking back, I know it actually meant something else entirely. There were 5 of us that day. Booger, yeah, that's what we called Ellis, Ray, my cousin Darnell, and Jerry Timmons. Jerry was the oldest, 13, maybe 14. He was mean as hell and twice as sharp. His daddy was a drunk and beat him all the damn time, so Jerry took it out on everyone smaller than him. He was the kind of kid you didn't like, but you followed anyway. That day, he dared us to walk the slag. All the way across, he said, standing at the edge with his arms crossed like he owned the place. No running, no chickening out. You do it, you're a man. You don't, you ain't nothing. Booger shook his head right off, said he wasn't dumb enough for that BS, and Ray backed out too without a second hesitation, but Darnell looked at me and shrugged. We were scared, sure, but being called nothing, that's worse than being scared, so we went. The slag crackled under our shoes. It was black glass and rust, and it crunched with every step. My soul stuck like they was melting. The air stank. sulfur, metal, burnt rubber. I started feeling it in my chest after a minute, tight, hard to breathe. Darnell coughed behind me, but neither of us said nothing. We just kept going. Jerry led the way, arms out like he was on a high wire, and at the halfway mark, he turned, grin stretched wide, and laughed. Easy, ain't it? But then, the ground ate him. One second, that cruel asshole was there. The next, the slag opened up like a hungry mouth and swallowed him whole. No yell, just a crack like thick ice breaking, and then nothing. We froze. I remember my knees locked up, heart slamming like it wanted out of my chest. Darnell whispered, "What in God's name was that?" I took a step closer and watched as the hole was closing up fast, slag pouring in like water, but I saw it just for a second. Something was moving down there. Not Jerry, not a body, something else, something slick and dark and full of bones that didn't belong to one thing and didn't move like a person and didn't move like anything I'd ever saw in my short life. And then the pile went quiet. Dead quiet. We turned and ran all the way home. Told the cops. Jerry slipped in and they went and looked. Dug for a day or two, said the pile was unstable, told folks to keep their kids off it. Jerry's mother screamed herself hoarse at the edge of that fence, and mine made me swear I'd never go near that hill again. She didn't have to, though. I had no interest in ever going back. Something was down there I didn't want to see again. But just because I didn't go, didn't stop whatever it was from coming for us. End of that summer, Darnell vanished. Didn't show up for dinner, didn't leave a note. Folks said he ran off, but I saw him the night before, standing by the pile. He was talking, not loud, just murmur-like, yet there wasn't nobody there but the dark. I thought he was just dealing with grief, but man, I think different now. Then, the next spring, Booger drowned in the quarry. Fell in, they said, but that never made a lick of sense. Booger could swim just fine. I've seen him do it. The worst came in '62. Ray hung himself, left a note that just said, "It's coming." Not long after that, I got the hell out of town, the second I turned 18. Didn't look back for a second and worked a job with air conditioning, unlike my father, and I did what I could to forget that summer and the echoes that I still, to this day, feel like are following me. But still, here I am, almost half a damn century later, and I still dream about it. Slag creeping up my bedposts, breathing in my ear. I know you probably think my story ain't nothing but a bunch of coincidences, but trust me, whatever the fuck took Jerry that day wasn't done, and I might have made it long enough to tell my grandson stories about the old days, but that thing, I know it ain't forgot.
Subject, the blues. User, P4L3E. Posted, December 3rd, 1999.
I started working at the used music store off Highway 11 in October of '96. It was okay enough pay, close to the bus line, and the manager didn't ask too many questions. Definitely a stoner without much give a damn. Apparently, the guy who worked the register before me was named Carl. He was a Vietnam vet, smoked menthols, listened to old blues records even when no one was in the store, and talked to himself more than anyone else. I was hired to take over his shift after one day he just stopped showing up. They didn't find out for like a week later that Carl had actually had a stroke. He died alone. It was kind of sad if you think about it, that the old guy had been through so much shit in his life only to kick the can like that. But honestly, I don't think he was quite done yet. The first time I heard him, I was in the back room. I figured it was rats, scratching, tapping, thin little claws on the storage shelves, but they moved wrong, too steady, too slow, like something walking on two legs but dragging one of them. I avoided it and just moved on. Then, another night, just after close, I was counting the till when the front door rattled. Not opened, just rattled. Then came 3 knocks, slow, steady, and deliberate. I didn't move. Next night, same thing, only this time it was the back door. I mentioned it to the manager the following morning. He just sighed and said, "I'll check the cameras, I guess." But he didn't, and I kept hearing things. About a week later, I was shelving some used tapes. Someone had traded in a box full of old gospel and Delta blues, and one of Carl's favorites came on the speakers. Death Letter Blues by Son House. We didn't even have that one in rotation. The stereo was even off. I checked it twice myself. Still, it played. And then I heard it. That slow, dragging step behind the racks. I turned quick, and nothing there. "Carl?" I said, half joking. The lights above the jazz section flickered. Not like a bulb about to go out, more like a nod. From then on, being at the store was definitely weird, but not in a bad way. More like I knew Carl was still around, still clocking in for his shift. Some nights I'd open up and find the floors already swept. The blues section, his favorite, was always alphabetized perfectly, even though I knew I hadn't touched it. The break room always smelled like menthols. As for quiet days when the rain came down and no one wandered in, the stereo would always click on by itself and play something old, scratchy, warm. Always blues, always something you'd swear had a heartbeat. Dude had taste. Once, a guy came in looking to sell a box of stolen CDs, and he got weird real fast. Jumpy, paranoid, twitchy. Said he felt like someone was watching him. Then, one of the speakers popped loud enough to make us both jump, and sure enough, Son House came blasting through again. The guy dropped the box and left. "Thanks, Carl," I muttered. After that, I started talking to him more, just casual stuff, out loud. I felt dumb at first, but it made the place feel lighter. Like maybe he'd stuck around, not just because he had nowhere else to be, but because he gave a damn about the place, about keeping it right. One night, near Christmas, I stayed late to do inventory. It was freezing outside. The heat barely worked. My hands were numb and I was exhausted. I muttered, wish I had some company tonight, and damned if a blues record didn't start spinning right then. Slow, sweet and sad, like someone saying, I got you. I sat behind the counter and let it play, let him keep me company. Carl was still around, and he wasn't looking to scare anyone. After I moved away the next spring, I mailed the store a note. Told the manager to leave a little space in the schedule for Carl, maybe put on a blues record now and then, but look, I never got a reply. Yet sometimes when I pass an old music store or hear a scratchy old tune playing out of nowhere, I wonder if Carl ever found another record bin to haunt, or if he's still there, spinning records, keeping time, making sure no one ever shelves the blues wrong.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.